Can I tell you something that completely rewired the way I think about discipline? Because for the longest time, I thought discipline was something you either had or you didn't. Like some people were just built for it. They woke up early, they worked out, they studied, they had their life together. And then there was everyone else. And I was firmly in the everyone else category. Until someone asked me one question that stopped me cold. If your laptop is about to die in the middle of something important, what do? You drop everything. You find a charger. You make it work. No excuses, no, I'll deal with it tomorrow. You handle it because it matters to you. That is discipline. You already have it. You just haven't aimed it at yourself yet. And that's exactly what today is about. Here's the thing nobody ever told me about discipline, and I genuinely wish they had. Discipline is not white-knuckling your way through a routine you hate. It's not being hard on yourself, pushing through exhaustion, or forcing your body and mind to perform like a machine on someone else's schedule. Real discipline, the kind that actually sticks, the kind that changes your life, is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. Think about the people you love most. Your best friend, your mom, someone who really matters to you. When they're struggling, you show up. When they need something, you make it happen. You don't wait until you feel like it. You do it because you love them. Discipline is just that, turned inward. It's showing up for yourself the way you show up for the people you love. Not when it's easy or convenient or when the motivation is there. But when it's hard, when you're tired, when every part of you wants to choose the easier thing. That's not suffering. That is self-love in its most honest, most powerful form. There was a period in my life where I had completely checked out on myself. I was exhausted all the time. Not from doing too much, but from the mental weight of everything I kept saying I'd do and never did. And the worst part? I thought the problem was discipline. I thought I just wasn't the type of person who could stick to things. But that wasn't it. The real problem was that somewhere underneath all those failed fresh starts, I didn't actually believe I was worth following through for. Not in a dramatic way. Just quietly. A low hum of why bother that I'd never really examined. And that changed the day I realized. Every time I broke a promise to myself, I was sending myself a message. You don't matter enough to follow through for. Every time I chose the scroll over the study, the snooze over the early morning, the comfort over the commitment, I was telling myself over and over that I wasn't worth the effort. And the only way to change that message was to start showing up. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. One small, kept promise at a time. That is when everything shifted. So here's how you actually do it. 5 things that moved me from someone who talked about change to someone who actually lived it. Step 1. Honesty hour. Get brutally honest with yourself before you do anything else. Not in a shame spiral way. In a quiet, clear-eyed, this is where I actually am kind of way. Find an hour, just one, where you sit down with yourself and ask 3 questions. What do I actually want to change? What is genuinely getting in my way? And, most importantly, what am I telling myself about why I can't? Because most of the time, the real barrier isn't time or energy or resources. It's the story running underneath. I'm not a gym person. I'm not disciplined enough for that. People like me don't do things like that. Write it all down. Not to feel bad about it, to see it clearly. Because once you can see the story, you can decide whether it's true. And most of the time, it isn't. I did this once and wrote down that I was scared to start something publicly because I was afraid of being seen and getting it wrong. That was the actual fear behind years of procrastination dressed up as not being ready. Naming it didn't fix it immediately. But it meant I was finally working on the real problem instead of the decoy one. Step 2. Remove the friction. Stop blaming yourself for failing systems that were never designed for you to win. Here's what I mean. A lot of the time, it's not that you're lazy. It's that there are too many decisions standing between you and the habit you're trying to build. And every decision you have to make in the moment is a chance for the tired, overwhelmed version of you to talk the motivated version out of it. So reduce the decisions. Make the good choice the easy choice. If you want to move your body in the morning, lay out everything the night before. Clothes, water, shoes by the door. No decisions when the alarm goes off, just movement. If you want to read more, put the book on your pillow, not on a shelf across the room. If you want to stop scrolling at midnight, charge your phone in the kitchen, not next to your bed. Not because you're weak, because you're smart enough to design your environment around who you want to be. The goal isn't willpower. The goal is a life set up so that becoming her is the path of least resistance. Step 3. Make it feel like something. Romanticize your growth. Genuinely. I know how that sounds, but hear me out. Discipline doesn't have to feel like a punishment. It can feel like a ritual, like something you do for yourself, not to yourself. Here's the specific thing I do that I've never really talked about. When I have to do something I'm dreading, a long work session, an early morning, something I've been avoiding, I make a whole moment out of the preparation. I take 10 minutes, I tidy the space I'm going to be in, I make something warm to drink, I put on a specific playlist I only use for that thing. Not to post about it, not for anyone else, just to tell myself, this matters enough to prepare for. There's something about that small ritual that shifts something in me. By the time I actually sit down to do the work, I've already decided it's worth showing up for. The environment has done half the convincing before I've even started. And I think that's the key insight. Discipline isn't just about what you do. It's about how you feel about what you're doing while you're doing it. So give yourself permission to make it feel good. The right playlist, the specific spot that feels like yours, the little thing that signals to your brain, we do this here, and we do it well. Step 4, clear your head so you can show up. Get the noise out of your head and onto paper. Let me tell you what my mornings used to look like before I started doing this. I'd wake up and within about 4 minutes, I was already overwhelmed. Not by anything that had actually happened yet, just by everything that was circling in my head. The thing I forgot to do yesterday. The message I still hadn't replied to. The deadline that felt closer than it should. The vague, shapeless anxiety of, am I behind? Am I always going to feel this behind? And I'd walk into my day already carrying all of it, already half distracted before I'd even had water. I thought that was just what mornings felt like. That was just being an adult with a lot going on. And then I started doing 5 minutes of brain dumping before I did anything else. Not a structured journal, not 20 prompts, just a blank page and whatever needed to come out. The to-dos, the worries, the half-formed idea I'd been carrying around since Tuesday. All of it, out of my head and onto paper where it couldn't follow me around anymore. And the difference was immediate. Not dramatic, just quiet and clear. Like a window you didn't know was fogged had been wiped clean. We carry thousands of thoughts a day. And when all of that has nowhere to land, it creates a constant low-grade static that makes it almost impossible to show up with any real focus or intention. The brain dump doesn't solve the problems. It just puts them somewhere safe so you can stop trying to hold them all at once. You don't need a fancy journal. You don't need a system. You just need 5 minutes and a page. That's the whole thing. And I promise you, that clarity is what makes every other step on this list possible. Step 5. Protect your energy like it's the most precious thing you owned, because it is. You have a finite amount of energy every single day. That's not a weakness. It's just true. And every person, plan, obligation, and distraction that gets a piece of it is getting a piece of what you have to work with. So, if you're trying to build something, yourself, a goal, a habit, a life, you have to get honest about where your energy is actually going. Not where you think it's going, where it's actually going. For me, that meant realizing that certain friendships left me more drained than restored. Certain ways I was spending my evenings were giving me stimulation without rest. Certain habits I'd kept because they were comfortable were quietly costing me the focus I needed for things I actually cared about. This isn't about becoming antisocial or cutting everyone off. It's about treating your energy the way you'd treat your bank account if you were trying to save for something that really mattered. You don't stop spending entirely, You just stop spending unconsciously. You get intentional. You ask, is this giving back or just taking? And you start protecting the quiet, focused, fully yours hours that discipline needs to grow. Here is the thing I want you to carry with you after this video. Every time you follow through on something you said you'd do, every workout, every early morning, every time you chose the thing that was good for you over the thing that was just comfortable, you are sending yourself a message. I matter. I am worth showing up for. I can trust myself. And every time you don't, every broken promise, every I'll start Monday, every time you chose the escape over the commitment, that's a message too. The version of yourself you're trying to become isn't built in big dramatic moments. She's built in the accumulation of small ones. That's what self-love actually looks like. Not the bubble baths and the self-care Sundays, though those are wonderful. The deep, sustaining kind. The kind that builds something real. Discipline is not what you do to yourself when you're not good enough. It's what you do for yourself because you are. So here's where we land. You already have discipline. You've never been without it. You've been pouring it into things that drain you. The scrolling, the avoidance, the comfortable patterns that feel safe but keep you small. Now it's time to redirect it. Toward you. Toward the version of you that you keep imagining and haven't quite let yourself become yet. Because you love yourself enough to hold a higher standard. And then meet yourself there. That's she decides. That's the whole thing. Drop a comment below with one thing you're going to start showing up for yourself on this week. And make it specific. Not be more disciplined. One real, concrete thing. Write it down. Make it real. Because the girl who decides, she's already in you. She's just waiting for you to choose her. See you in the next one.